Welcome to this video. In this video, we will learn about the term called constructor in Java. This coming tutorial will introduce you to constructors, what they are, why are they used, and their types. So let's begin. What is a constructor? A constructor is a special method used to initialize objects. It is called when an instance of a class, i.e., an object, is created. The constructor's job is to set up the initial state of the object, typically by assigning values to the class fields, also known as instance variables. For example, in this code, a car class's object is made by calling a constructor named car, which looks like method and having no parameters. Now let's discuss some features of a constructor. Number 1. No return type. Even though they look like methods, they don't have a return type number. It must have the same name as the class name. And number 3, it is always declared public, so that any other class can create object of this class by invoking the constructor. Now let's see what are the different types of constructors we can work with. Number 1, default constructor. The constructor that is given by the Java compiler. Number 2, parameterized constructor. The constructor that we design ourselves to initialize an object of a class with some instance variable set. And the last one is copy constructor, which is used to clone mechanism of a certain class to duplicate one object. Now, what is a default constructor? A default constructor in Java is a constructor that is automatically provided by the compiler if no other constructors are explicitly defined in a class. It takes no arguments and simply initializes an object with default values for its fields. Characteristics of a default constructor. Number 1. No parameters. The default constructor has no parameters. Number 2. Implicit. If you do not define any constructor in your class, Java automatically provides a default constructor. Number 3. No initialization logic. It doesn't do any explicit initialization beyond setting default values, e.g., null for objects, 0 for integers, and false for booleans. Now, one example is given below. Now let's see what is a parameterized constructor. A parameterized constructor in Java is a constructor that accepts arguments, parameters, to initialize an object with specific values. This allows you to pass data to the constructor when creating an object, so the fields of the class can be initialized with custom values rather than default ones. Characteristics of a parameterized constructor. Number 1. Takes parameters. It can take one or more parameters, allowing you to initialize fields with values passed at object creation. Number 2. Custom initialization. You can assign the values passed as arguments to the class's fields, or instance variables. Number 3. Constructor overloading. A class can have multiple constructors with different numbers or types of parameters. Overloading. One example of it is also given below.